She was humiliated in her own home. At her grandfather's birthday party, a place that should have been a warm family gathering, it turned into a stage for ridicule. "That's your gift? Looks like something from a street market," her adoptive sister sneered, holding a sparkling velvet box. The maids whispered. Her mother turned away. Her father let out a tired sigh. And then her billionaire boyfriend walked in. Bloom Manor loomed over New York's Hudson Valley, its limestone walls aglow under the October dusk, its grand ballroom a cathedral of wealth. Franklin Bloom's 85th birthday celebration filled the estate with the pulse of power. Senators in bespoke tuxedos, media moguls draped in $20,000 gowns, CEOs with private islands, and dynasties whose names graced museums. The Bloom family, mid-tier elite with a logistics empire spanning continents, hosted 200 guests, their sapphire invitations checked by velvet-gloved staff. Crystal chandeliers cast rainbows across mahogany floors, caviar gleamed on silver trays, and a string quartet wove Vivaldi's notes through the air, thick with ambition and oud. The ballroom, framed by silk drapes and portraits of Bloom ancestors, was a stage for legacy, every guest angling for Franklin's favor, his nod worth billions. Outside, the autumn wind whispered through ancient oaks, but inside, a young woman's quiet strength was about to shift the manor's history. Harper Bloom slipped through a side entrance, her linen dress, hand-stitched by a Nebraska seamstress, flowing softly, her old ballet flat silent on polished marble. At 27, her beauty was raw, her hazel eyes sharp as jade, her chestnut hair loosely tied with a cotton ribbon. Raised in a modest town, she'd worked part-time at a diner, studied biology, and lived simply, unaware of her origins until a secret DNA test at 18 revealed she was Franklin Bloom's biological granddaughter, switched at birth in a 1997 hospital mistake. The Blooms brought her back quietly, but never claimed her publicly, swayed by Celia, the wrong daughter raised in Harper's place. Celia had poisoned the family, spiking Harper's drinks with lemon-scented soap, planting fake Gucci in her closet, stealing her boyfriend, all while playing the golden child. Harper didn't fight back. She came for Franklin, the only one who called her my girl, his gray eyes warm with love. In her hands, a velvet pouch held a jade bracelet bought with every penny she'd saved, a sacred gift for him. The guests' stares cut through Harper as she entered the ballroom, their whispers sharp as thorns. Celia Bloom, radiant in a $12,000 Dior gown, stood at the center, her $90,000 jade bracelet gleaming in a custom velvet box. She spotted Harper, her smirk ablaze. "Oh, wow, a bracelet. What a coincidence," she said, her voice carrying across the room. "I'm giving Grandpa one too, but, well, mine's a bit more special." The crowd chuckled, their eyes darting to Harper's plain dress. Margaret Voss, a media heiress in a $25,000 Chanel gown, leaned toward a senator. "She really brought cheap jewelry to a party like this?" she hissed, sparking laughter. Harper's fingers tightened on the velvet pouch, her face serene, but the air crackled with disdain. Franklin's gaze flickered to her, a fleeting warmth, and the audience's anger stirred, their hearts tensing at the elite's cruelty. Celia presented her bracelet first, lifting it high, its diamonds flashing under the chandeliers. "For you, Grandpa, from your devoted granddaughter," she said, her voice honeyed. The guests clapped, CEOs nodding, socialites raising flutes. Then eyes turned to Harper, standing alone, her velvet pouch small in her hands. A hedge fund titan bellowed, "Trying to copy Celia? That's just sad." Laughter roared, guests nudging each other, their diamonds glinting. A senator's wife sneered, "That's what happens when you let some farm girl pretend she belongs." Harper's parents, Edward and Lillian Bloom, stood silent, their faces cold. Lillian muttered to a guest, "Harper's adopted. She's not used to large parties," her tone dismissive. The audience's fury surged, their hearts pounding, enraged at this family's betrayal of their own blood. The elite's scorn turned vicious as Harper moved through the ballroom, their mockery a choreographed assault meant to crush her spirit. A group of Wall Street heirs in $10,000 tuxedos lined the velvet-draped wall, their voices a venomous chorus. "She's a blemish on Bloom's name," one sneered, flicking a caviar crumb toward Harper's ballet flats. "Back to the cornfields, darling." Another waved a gold-plated cigar case, shouting, "Her dress looks like a tablecloth." The crowd's laughter roared, guests nudging each other, their diamonds glinting. A shipping magnate bellowed, "She's an insult to every legacy here." The taunts were a guillotine, each word a blade against Harper's poised silence. Franklin's hand tightened on his cane, unnoticed, but the audience's rage surged, their hearts pounding, furious at this orchestrated cruelty, their anger a fire ready to consume the elite's arrogance. The mockery grew vicious, a coordinated assault on Harper's presence. A clique of socialites in $15,000 gowns formed a semicircle, their voices a venomous chorus. "Did she raid a thrift store for that dress?" one hissed, tossing a silk napkin toward Harper's feet. "No +1, poor thing's all alone," another jeered, her jeweled clutch waving. A maid, emboldened by the crowd, snickered. "She didn't even bring a guest. Probably couldn't afford one," her voice loud enough for the room. The laughter was a guillotine, each word a lash against Harper's silence. Edward Bloom glanced away, his silence a wound deeper than words. Franklin's hand tightened on his cane, unnoticed by the crowd. But the audience's rage boiled, their hearts breaking for Harper, furious at this mob's relentless scorn. Celia's disdain sharpened, her words a calculated strike to wound Harper before the elite. "She's not just out of place, she's an embarrassment," she declared, her $12,000 Dior gown shimmering as she gestured at Harper's linen dress. "Grandpa must be mortified to see this drifter in his manor." Her entourage erupted in laughter, their pearls clinking, eyes darting to Harper's cotton ribbon. "She's a beggar, not a Bloom," Celia sneered, her voice loud enough to silence the quartet. The guests cheered, their scorn a suffocating tide, their whispers buzzing. "She doesn't belong." Harper's hazel eyes burned with quiet fire, but her smile held, a shield against the betrayal. Franklin's jaw tightened, his silence a gathering storm. But the audience's fury roared, their hearts breaking for Harper, enraged at this adopted daughter's treachery unveiled before the room. Celia's allies struck harder, their disdain a public execution. Ethan Reed, Harper's ex-boyfriend, now Celia's partner, approached in a $5,000 Armani suit, his smile crocodile tears. "You still look cute, Harper, like a little sister," he said, his voice dripping with fake warmth. "But why do you always make Celia feel bad? You know she tries so hard to love you." The crowd gasped, guests whispering, "She's so jealous." Celia dabbed fake tears, murmuring, "I just want us to be sisters." The room's laughter drowned Harper's silence, their accusations a suffocating tide. Harper smiled softly, her hazel eyes steady, but inside she shattered, the betrayal a blade only Franklin's love could dull. The audience's fury peaked, their anger a tidal wave against this orchestrated lie, desperate for truth to break the spell. The elite's scorn sharpened, their voices a venomous symphony. Vanessa Klein, a fashion mogul in a $20,000 Valentino gown, leaned forward from a velvet chair, her voice slicing through the ballroom. "She's an insult to the Bloom legacy," she sneered, gesturing at Harper's linen dress. "Franklin must be ashamed to see this imposter here." Her companions nodded, one adding, "No wonder she's alone. Her own family disowns her." A tech billionaire shouted, "She's a fraud, probably forged her invitation." The laughter roared, each lie a dagger aimed at Harper's heart. Harper's fingers brushed her cotton ribbon, her gaze fixed on Franklin, but the crowd's disdain was a crushing weight. The audience's anger erupted, their hearts with Harper furious at this global elite's cruelty. The staff's complicity deepened the wound, their actions a fresh betrayal. A butler in a crisp uniform paused near Harper, his voice low but audible. "Miss, the service entrance is that way," he said, pointing toward the kitchen, his smirk mirrored by nearby guests. "We don't usually seat such guests in the ballroom," he added, sparking chuckles from the elite. The crowd's approval was a suffocating tide, their arrogance a public crucifixion. Harper adjusted her cotton ribbon, her hazel eyes unwavering, but Franklin's jaw tightened, a storm brewing in his silence. The audience's rage flared, their hearts pounding at this institutional scorn, their fury a fire ready to consume the manor's sanctity. The manor staff's disdain turned overt, their actions a public shaming orchestrated for the elite's amusement. A head steward, his uniform pristine, approached Harper near the ballroom's grand staircase, his voice dripping with condescension. "Miss, this area is for invited guests only," he said, loud enough for the crowd to hear. "Your attire suggests you're in the wrong section." He gestured at her ballet flats, his smirk mirrored by nearby guests. "We don't typically allow such Simplicity at Bloom events, he added, sparking laughter from the senators and moguls. The crowd's approval was a crushing tide, their arrogance a public execution. Harper adjusted her cotton ribbon, her hazel eyes unwavering. But Franklin's cane trembled, his silence a gathering tempest. The audience's rage flared, their hearts pounding at this institutional betrayal, their fury ablaze against the manor's sanctity. The guests' cruelty peaked, their whispers a venomous storm. A media tycoon's daughter leaned forward, her $30,000 tiara glinting, and hissed, "She's a con artist, probably bribed her way into the manor." Her companions nodded, one adding, "Her story's a lie, just a scam to leech off Franklin." A Wall Street banker shouted, "She's a fake, the Blooms have been duped." The laughter roared, each rumor a blade against Harper's poised silence. Franklin's eyes narrowed, his cane trembling, but Harper stood still, her velvet pouch a quiet anchor. The audience's anger surged, their hearts with Harper, desperate for this public shaming to end, their fury a tidal wave against the elite's lies. The guests' cruelty peaked as they spun vicious rumors, their voices a venomous storm echoing through the ballroom. A publishing heiress in a $35,000 tiara leaned forward, her voice loud and cutting. "She's a fraud, probably blackmailed her way into the Blooms," she hissed, her companions nodding, their diamonds flashing. "Her mother's probably a myth, just a story to scam Franklin." Another added, shouting, "She's a con artist, Bloom Manor's been duped." The laughter roared, each rumor a dagger aimed at Harper's heart. Guests whispered lies, their accusations spreading like wildfire. "She's after the inheritance." Harper's fingers clutched the velvet pouch, her gaze steady on Franklin, but the crowd's slander was a crushing weight. The audience's anger erupted, their hearts with Harper, their fury a tidal wave against this malicious slander, desperate for the truth to shatter the elite's lies. The air shifted as the gift ceremony began, the crowd gathering near Franklin's carved mahogany throne. Celia stepped forward, her $90,000 bracelet gleaming, her smile practiced. "For you, Grandpa, a symbol of our bond," she said, her voice ringing clear. The guests clapped, their diamonds flashing, senators nodding. Then Franklin's eyes found Harper, softening with love. She approached, her velvet pouch small but heavy with devotion, and offered her jade bracelet. The crowd smirked, expecting failure. Arthur Wren, Franklin's old friend, picked it up, squinting through his glasses. His gasp silenced the room. "Franklin, this is the rarest Fraysum jade I've ever seen," he said, his voice trembling. The audience's hearts stirred, their anger shifting to curiosity, the reveal a spark in the frost. Master Li, a feng shui master among the guests, stepped forward, his silk robes whispering. "This piece was blessed by Master Yuan Min in Chiang Rai," he said, his voice steady. "A monk who hasn't consecrated jade in 7 years. Only someone with immense karmic affinity could receive such a blessing." The room froze, flutes trembling, gasps rippling through the perfumed air. A tech mogul muttered, "It's probably a knockoff." Arthur Wren shook his head. "Absolutely not. This is mist jade, a grade so rare it's known only to secret collectors in spiritual circles." Celia's smile cracked, her $90,000 bracelet suddenly dull. Harper stood still, her hazel eyes calm, her gift a quiet truth. The audience's hearts soared, the reveal ablaze in the frost, their pride swelling for Harper's unyielding grace. The truth deepened, the crowd's whispers a storm of doubt. Unknown to Harper, her bracelet, bought from a small antique store, had been swapped by someone watching silently. Lucas Caldwell, heir to Caldwell Group, New York's largest private investment firm, had seen her visit his family's store. Without her knowledge, he replaced her modest jade with his grandfather's heirloom, blessed by Master Yuan Min during a trip to Asia. He'd kept it secret, waiting for this moment. The ballroom doors swung open, and Lucas entered, his gray tuxedo sharp as steel, his presence a thunderclap. The crowd turned, their faces taut, as he walked straight to Harper, taking her hand. His gray eyes locked on Franklin. "Sir, I'm Lucas, Harper's partner," he said, his voice steady. "And today, I came to ask for your blessing, because I want to marry her." The audience's pride swelled, their hearts thundering as Lucas's truth reshaped the manor's legacy. The room froze, Ethan Reed's wineglass shattering on the marble, Celia's face paling to ash. Lucas continued, his voice cutting through the silence. She doesn't need brands. She doesn't need stock portfolios. She has grace, and that's something no one here can buy. The guests' diamonds seemed to dim, their faces taut with shock. Edward and Lillian Bloom stood motionless, their silence a confession. Lucas guided Harper to Franklin's side, his hand steady on hers. The audience cheered, their anger transformed into awe, as Harper's truth began to unravel the lies that had bound her. Franklin's gaze softened on Harper, his cane trembling with unspoken pride, the room holding its breath for his word. Lucas Caldwell's presence commanded the ballroom, his voice a gavel strike that silenced the perfumed air. "You dared to mock Harper Bloom, the only soul worthy of this legacy," he said, his gray eyes a storm of controlled fury. "Your wealth, your titles, mean nothing against her truth." He raised a leather folio, revealing a cascade of severed ties. Vanessa Klein's fashion contracts, Ethan Reed's finance partnerships, Celia's charity board seats, all terminated by Caldwell Group's influence. "Your names are erased from New York's elite," he declared, his gaze locking on Celia. "You've lost more than status. You've lost your future." The crowd's gasps were a symphony of shock, their empires crumbling under his command. Harper stood beside him, her linen dress glowing, her triumph sealed by Lucas's unrelenting power. The audience roared, their hearts soaring as his global retribution crushed the elite's arrogance. Franklin rose, his cane slamming against the marble, the sound a gavel strike. "Enough," he said, his voice a storm that silenced the ballroom. "Harper is my only biological grandchild. Celia is the adopted one, and I regret ever letting this deception go on." Celia screamed, a raw, desperate sound, her Dior gown no shield against the truth. Edward and Lillian bowed their heads, their faces crumpled with shame. Franklin's gray eyes burned, sweeping the crowd. Celia poisoned this family against Harper, lied, manipulated, stole her place. But Harper never fought back. She came for me, with love, not greed. The guests gasped, Vanessa Klein's gown wilting, Margaret Voss's tiara slipping. The audience's hearts roared, their fury now pride as Franklin's revelation crushed the elite's arrogance. The fallout was immediate, a reckoning delivered in silence. Celia stumbled back, her $90,000 bracelet mocked by the crowd's whispers. Thief in Dior. Edward and Lillian were shunned, their Bloom board seats revoked, their social empire dust. Ethan Reed was escorted out, his Armani suit no shield, his finance deals canceled. Vanessa Klein's fashion brand faced sanctions, her reputation a disgrace. The butler who'd sneered was dismissed, his career over. The socialites who'd tossed napkins hid their faces, their influence null. Harper stood beside Lucas, her ballet flats steady, her linen dress a quiet crown. The audience's hearts pounded, their anger transformed into triumph. Harper's victory a testament to her grace. The elite's downfall was a spectacle, their arrogance shattered under Lucas's and Franklin's command. Celia stumbled back, her Dior gown a mockery, her reputation trending as a cautionary tale among the guests. Ethan Reed's finance empire plummeted, his scorn a public wound, his escorts pushing him toward the exit. Vanessa Klein's fashion brand faced boycotts, her name a social scar. The publishing heiress hid her tiara, her slander exposed as lies. The staff who'd sneered were dismissed, their careers ended. The socialites who'd tossed napkins were shunned, their influence null. Harper stood tall, her cotton ribbon a quiet crown, her hazel eyes unyielding. The audience's hearts thundered, their anger transformed into pride. Harper's victory and Lucas's wrath a blaze that humbled the world's richest in the manor's hallowed halls. No one knew Harper's past, not the guests, not Celia, not the elite. At 16, she'd taught herself biology, her diner tips, funding textbooks. At 18, the DNA test shattered her world, but she embraced the Blooms, hoping for family, not wealth. Celia's lies, soap in her drinks, fake Gucci, stolen love, had broken her heart, but Harper stayed for Franklin, her love for him a lighthouse in the storm. Lucas had watched her silently, his heart shaped by her resilience, his heirloom jade a vow to protect her. Now she stood in Bloom Manor, her cotton ribbon a testament to her truth, her silence a furnace that burned through their lies. The celebration continued, the quartet resuming, but the guests' eyes remained on Harper. A senator approached, his voice low with respect. "Miss Bloom, Your Grace, it's extraordinary," he said, his earlier scorn a regret. The media moguls retreated, their influence null, their aides scrambling to salvage ties with the Blooms. The CEOs hovered, their empires trembling in Harper's hands. Harper walked toward the ballroom's terrace, her hazel eyes tracing Franklin's proud smile. She paused, her fingers brushing the cotton ribbon, her gaze steady as the love she'd carried. The audience's pride swelled, their hearts thundering as Harper's quiet power reshaped the manor's history. The elite scrambled, their voices hushed with desperate pleas. "Get me a meeting with Miss Bloom!" a mogul shouted, his voice cracking. "She's the heir now," a socialite whispered, her Chanel gown no shield against the truth. The host hovered, his authority null, his future in Harper's hands. Harper stepped onto the terrace, Lucas at her side, Franklin's arm around her. The guests bowed their heads, their earlier scorn a fading echo. She left the ballroom, the autumn breeze carrying her forward, leaving a trail of the world's richest pleading for her favor, their bows a silent surrender to the woman they'd mocked. She was humiliated, in her own home, by people wearing borrowed diamonds and fake smiles. But when the truth rose, like a tide they couldn't stop, they all learned one thing: the real heir doesn't need to sparkle. She just needs to walk in, and the room will kneel. Like, share, and subscribe for more stories like this, and tell us in the comments, what would you do if you were Harper?